Hi everyone, welcome back to the Advanced Mortgage Solutions podcast. You've got Scott Miller, the founder and resident expert from AMS. Today we're going to talk about where two people buy a home together that are not married or living together, for example, two siblings. Tell us, what are the differences between that and your more, say, standard scenario?
Look, in most instances, it's a couple, be it friends or a relationship or a marriage, anything that are looking to buy a house together. The resulting assessment of that is that the costs to buy that house are joint. So it just means that under the expense column on the application, there's just one lot of expenses that both applicants share. When you're looking to buy, an investment property or a property, say for one person that's going to live in, but they're getting help by another person that's not going to live in that property, now you've got two separate expense columns, because the person that's going to buy the house with the friend has a house of their own, for example, and they've got food and power and clothing and all the things that they may do, gym memberships, you name it. And then the other person's got their life as well and have exactly the same thing. So now the application has a completely different view to it, in that we have to declare both individuals' expenses and they're not joint anymore to come into the purchase that they're looking to do together. And this can push people out on assessment, because we've got a double up on food, a double up on power, a double up on everything that takes you to live, or an applicant to live. And they're still trying to row in the same direction and buy the one house together for whatever purpose that might be. So it just makes the assessment a little bit more detailed and a little harder to pass, because of the fact that there's the double up on the expenses. There's also a side effect to this later on. So you might have said, hey, look, let's get into our investment portfolio by sharing the cost. Great idea, yeah. But then after that one purchase, say 2 or 3 years later, you want to buy yourself a house. Well, from your point of view, you're only liable for 50% of the costs of buying the initial house together. But under assessment, it's not seen that way. Because you have joint lending, you're 100% liable for that joint lending, and the application would be done with 100% of the lending. That is, although it's joint, they've got to take the position that the other person's not involved in this single purchase for your new house for yourself, so you're liable for 100% of the debt that you're sharing with your partner, spouse, whatever. And so it makes it very hard now to be able to afford two whole loans together. Even though this is joint and this is just for you to buy your own home, the whole lot has to be taken into consideration under the assessment process. And that's where we're finding, so do I have to exit out of my joint purchase? And sometimes the answer is, well, if you want to buy a house for yourself, then yes, you would have to exit the joint lending that you've got. So it always, pays to sort of keep one mind or eye on what you're looking to do in the future with those kind of joint purchases, because they can come back and hamstring you a little.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I suppose if the same parties were then looking to buy a second investment property together, I suppose it's just the same as the first one. It's a joint application, 100% liable each time.
What's helping in this instance is that we're talking mainly along the lines that they're buying rental properties. So with a rental purchase, you can associate the potential rental income to a help with affordability. It's not like you're buying yourself a house where there's no income coming from that house because you're living in it. So it does make it a little bit easier on that joint side, because of the rental income that you'll receive for that purpose.
So it could, as you talk about, it all comes down to your long-term planning. But if your plan was, say, over 10, 20 years to build the investment portfolio, working with a partner or a sibling or whatever to get in there, could be quite a powerful, because you've got the double incomes, and then you're not living in the property.
You'd have to attribute some cost for your own living, because you're not living in the house. So that might be rent, or it might be another mortgage that you've already got, for example. I mean, some of the ones that a lot of people don't think through, and I can see why, is they try and help their elderly, parents. So they go halves with the parents to buy, a house for the parents to live in. And it might be close to where they're living or something at the moment. But then, of course, when we come back to that reassessment, they're now 100% liable for that debt. And although they're there to be
Wow.
helpful and
All right.
loving as you do to your parents, it's actually hamstrung you into something that you want to do for yourself later on. So there's all sorts of little, I don't know, consequences that, you know, unless you think it all the way through, you would never go, oh, wow, yeah, I didn't see that, you know.
Yeah.
So we do find sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, applicants have painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah. Well, and again, it highlights the point of coming to talk to someone like yourself before even pushing play.
Yeah.
You know, and talking about the scenario, breaking down, hey, the option 1, option 2, did you know if you do this is going to be the repercussions or the consequences of doing that, you know,
because
good or bad,
most people
you know.
will think that I'm only, you know, I'm only liable for half that debt, which technically you are, but it's not how it's assessed at the next time around. From a lender's point of view, they have to take it as if you're 100% up for that debt. Yeah.
Interesting.
Look, the other thing I suppose to talk around those things is, you know, property relationship agreements are really important. So you might go into a, you know, I'm sort of drifting into the more legal side now, but you might be going in with the best intentions, but then exit strategies can completely change. You know, like two friends could get a rental together, and everything's going well, and then one of the friends gets into a very serious relationship and wants to buy something for themselves, finds that because of the previous joint purchase they can't buy something together, so want to exit the original agreement earlier than they had initially intended to. So that's where that property relationship sort of comes in, to say what's mine is mine and what's mine is mine, and what we do to do is together. And it would also fairly sort of distribute any kind of investment into that property equally. So if, say, someone came in with a bigger percentage of the deposit to buy the initial property, then, you know, technically they would need to see that amount of money back above and beyond the second person that put in that money. So there's other things to consider as well. It's not just, you know, let's get together and build a, you know, a property portfolio empire. There's more to think about.
Yeah. Interesting. Brilliant. Okay, Scott, look, if someone's listening to this and they're about to embark on that journey and they want to catch up with you, how do they get hold of you and book an appointment?
All of this information and more is on the website. So there's calculators and free forms and contact abilities of any broker that works here. So that's found at www.advancedmortgagesolutions.co.nz.
Brilliant. All right, Scott, thanks very much for that.
Thanks,
We'll see you on
Joel.
the next episode.